If your engine is shaking very bad and you have a check engine light on the dash, turn off the engine and scan for codes. P1305, igniter circuit malfunction. Let's hope it's not expensive. Hello and welcome to How to Helen, where you learn something different every day. In this episode, we will be tackling the check engine code P1305 igniter circuit malfunction for this 2002 Lexus RX300. Now, the symptoms that I had was that I lost power on the highway and the check engine light is on right now. But based on my research, it might be as simple as replacing an ignition coil. And on that same research, it is pointing to cylinder number 2, which is just by the passenger side in front of the vehicle. So let's start to address the issue right now. Now, as mentioned on my research, P1305 points to cylinder number 2, which is here on the front just by the passenger side. Now, before we dive in and replace the coil, let's spray the bolt with penetrating oil and let it soak for a day or two so that we don't break the bolt. And since we might be replacing the other two as well, so let's soak those bolts as well. I will come back after a few days.
3 days later.
So it has been 2 days since we soaked the bolts with WD-40, so we should be good now. Now the bolts are 10mm size, so use a 10mm socket and wrench to remove it. Oh no. Oh no. Alright, well, I guess it broke. It was expected. It's a 22-year-old car, so yeah, we're just gonna continue and we'll address this later, but it's old. There's nothing you can do about it, so we'll continue on. So assume that you're able to remove your bolt successfully. Next thing you do is remove the wiring connector from the ignition coil. Press the back of the wiring connector to clear the tab and pull it away from the ignition coil. Now with the wiring connector out, you can just pull out the ignition coil. Hopefully it doesn't break. Be careful. Okay. Careful. And there's your old ignition coil. And there's your broken bolt. Guess it didn't really penetrate. Anyway, here's your old ignition coil and here's your new ignition coil. Here's a side-by-side comparison. This doesn't look like OEM. This one has the Toyota Denso marking. So I guess on a side note, make sure that you buy authentic ignition coils or OEM ignition coils, because you don't know how the old ones or aftermarket ones will last. Alright, so let's put this in. Just slide it in and try to feel that the end of the ignition coil grabs on the top of the spark plug. You should feel it snap right in. Now, assuming that it didn't break your bolt, just reinstall your bolt and torque it to 14 foot-pounds. Unfortunately with mine, it's broken, so oh well. Now, reconnect the wiring harness. Make sure that the locking tab locks in place. Now let's clear the check engine code and see if it comes back. Okay, clearing the check engine code. Okay, we erased it and let's start it, see if it's still there. Okay, check engine light is gone and let's read the codes. Okay, no code stored. I'm just making sure it's gone. No, just FYI, my ABS lights always flashes when I scan the engine with the scanner. I don't know why. So please ignore that. It's not related. Okay. No more check engine and no more check engine code. Hopefully it's just a bad ignition coil.
3 weeks later.
So it's been a month now, and after replacing ignition coil number 2, the check engine light has not returned. So that means that we have fixed the problem. Good job. Now, as a preventive measure, I decided that I'm going to replace ignition coil number 4 and 6 as well, because I don't want it dying on me while I'm driving. Now, I did soak the bolts with penetrating oil, as well as I warmed up the engine so that the metal part of the engine I'm hoping would expand just a little bit so that we don't break the 2 bolts, just like the first one. So let's start by disconnecting the wiring harness. So press down at the back so that it will release the locking mechanism in front. Same with this one. Next, use a 10mm socket and wrench to remove the bolts. Hopefully it doesn't break. So let's just be gentle. Alright, it seems to be loosening up. Oh, it's actually loose. Hope it's not broken. Huh. Alright, I guess that warming up the car to normal operating temperature did loosen the bolt, because this one was really loose. Alright, we saved one. Yay! So let's try this one. This one's so tough. Careful. Huh. Alright, I hope it's not broken. Yay. It's good. Huh. That was lucky. I guess soaking them with penetrating oil and warming up the engine so that the metal expands would prevent the bolt from breaking. Now let's remove the ignition coil. Let's slowly pull it up. Careful. Careful. And it's out. Once out. This one's a little harder. Feels like it's stuck just a little bit. Don't break. There you go. Just a little hard. Alright, so here's the 2 old ignition coils and there's the new ones. So let's put in the new ones. Just like when we removed it, just slide it in. Make sure that it grabs the top of the spark plug. Okay, feels like it grabbed it. And same with the last one. Just slide it in, let it grab the top of the spark plug. Nice. Let's reconnect the wiring harness. Yep. Make sure it snaps in. Now let's reinstall the 10mm bolt. Start by hand tightening it so you don't cross thread. Now make sure you torque the ignition coil bolt to 14 foot-pounds. Now the last bolt, I'm not going to put it in yet because I decided I'm going to bring it to Home Depot and hopefully I can find a match so we can put a replacement bolt for the ignition coil number 2. Let's see if we find one. Okay, so I am here at Home Depot. I am just making sure what size is the bolt that we need for the ignition coil. I believe it is an M6 with a 1.0 thread pitch. And it is confirmed. Yep, M6 1.0 thread pitch. So now let's figure out what length of bolt that we need for the coil. Okay, so these are the two closest one that I found, an M6 with a 1.0 thread pitch, 35 millimeters, and an M6 1.0 with a 30 millimeters. And this bolt is closer to 30 millimeters, whereas the 35 millimeter is slightly longer. But as you can see, the bolts here at Home Depot doesn't have the built-in washer, just like the one we brought in. But I guess this would do. So we'll take the 30 millimeters. If you go to an auto supply store, they probably have a better match. But for now, Home Depot, we're good with this. And that is how we fixed the check engine code P1305 by replacing the ignition coil on cylinder number 2 on this 2002 Lexus RX300. Now, again, unfortunately, we broke the bolt that's holding the ignition coil in place. But if I do find a replacement and able to replace this one, then I'll add that video on this video so that in case you broke yours also, you will know how to replace it as well. But for now, this has been another episode of How to Helen. My name's RJeff, and thank you for watching.